GNU readline interface. The readline module defines a number of functions to facilitate completion and reading or writing of history files from the Python interpreter. This module can be used directly or via a RL completer module, which supports completion of Python identifiers at the interactive prompt. Settings made using this module affect the behavior of both the interpreter's interactive prompt and the prompts offered by the built-in input function. Readline key bindings may be configured via an initialization file, typically .inputrc, in your home directory. See readline init file in the GNU readline manual for information about the format and allowable constructs of that file and in capabilities of the readline library in general. Note: the underlying readline library API may be implemented by the libedit library instead of GNU readline. On Mac OS, the readline module detects which library is being used at runtime. The configuration file for libedit is different from that of GNU readline. If you programmatically load configuration strings, you can check for the text libedit in readline.__doc to differentiate between GNU readline and libedit. If you use editline or libedit readline emulation on macOS, the initialization file located in your home directory is named .editrc. For example, the following content in ~/.editrc will turn on via key bindings and tab completion. Python :bind -v, Python :bind -i, rl_complete. Init file. The following functions relate to the init file and user configuration. Readline.parse and _bind parenthesis string. Execute the init line provided in the string argument. This calls rl_parse and _bind parenthesis in underlying library. Readline.read_init_file parenthesis square bracket file name. Execute a readline initialization file. The default file name is the last file name used. This calls rl_read_init_file parenthesis in the underlying library. Line buffer. The following functions operate on the line buffer. Readline.get_line_buffer method return the current contents of the line buffer. rl_line_buffer in the underlying library. Readline.insert_text string. Insert text into the line buffer at the cursor position. This calls rl_insert_text method in the underlying library but ignores the return value. Readline.readdisplay. Change what's displayed on the screen to reflect the current contents of the line buffer. This calls rl_readdisplay method in the underlying library. History file. The following functions operate on a history file. Readline.read_history_file parenthesis square bracket file name. Load a readline history file and append it to the history list. The default file name is ~history. This calls read_history method in the underlying library. Clear. Okay. ~/dot. Readline.write_history_file name. Save the history list to a readline history file, overwriting any existing file. The default file name is ~/.history. This calls write_history method in the underlying library. Readline.append_history_file bracket n elements square bracket comma file name. Append the last n elements items of a history to a file. The default file name is ~/.history. The file must already exist. This calls append underscore history in the underlying library. This function only exists if Python was compiled for a version of the library that supports it. Readline.get underscore history underscore length. Readline.set history underscore length. Set or return the desired number of lines to save in the history file. The write history file function uses this value to truncate the history file by calling history underscore truncate underscore file method in the underlying library. Negative values imply unlimited history file size. History list. The following functions operate on a global history list. Readline.clear history. Clear the current history. This calls clear underscore history in the underlying library. The Python function only exists if Python was compiled for a version of the library that supports it. Readline.get underscore current underscore history underscore length. Return the number of items currently in the history. This is different from get underscore history underscore length, which returns the maximum number of lines that will be returned to a history file. Readline.get underscore history underscore item index. Return the current contents of history item at index. The item index is 1 based. This calls history underscore get in the underlying library. Readline.remove underscore history underscore items item position. Remove history item specified by its position from the history. The position is 0 based. This calls remove underscore history in the underlying library. Readline.replace underscore history underscore item position comma line. Replace history item specified by its position with line. The position is 0 based. This calls replace underscore history underscore entry method in the underlying library. Read.add underscore history and history parenthesis line. Append line to the history buffer as if it was the last line type. This calls add underscore history method in the underlying library. Readline.set auto history enabled. Enable or disable automatic calls to the add history method when reading input via readline. The enabled argument should be a boolean value that when true enables auto history and that when false disables auto history. See Python implementation detail. Auto history is enabled by default and changes to this do not persist across multiple sessions. Startup hooks. Readline.set is startup hook function. Set or remove the function invoked by the rl underscore startup underscore hook callback of the underlying library. If function is specified, it will be used as the new hook function. If omitted or none, any function already installed is removed. The hook is called with no arguments just before readline prints the first prompt. Readline.set underscore pre underscore input underscore hook function. Set or remove the function invoked by the rl underscore pre underscore input hook callback of the underlying library. If function is specified, it will be used as the new hook function. If omitted or none, any function already installed is removed. The hook is called with no arguments after the first prompt has been printed and just before readline starts reading input characters. This function only exists if Python was compiled for a version of the library that supports it. Completion. The following functions relate to implementing a custom word completion function. This is typically operated by the tab key and can suggest and automatically complete a word being typed. By default, readline is set up to be used by RL completer to complete Python identifiers for the interactive interpreter. If the readline module is to be used with a custom completer, a different set of word delimiter should be set. Readline.set underscore completer function. Set or remove the completer function. If function is specified, it will be used as the new completer function. If omitted or none, any completer function already installed is removed. The completer function is called as function text and slash comma state for state in 0, 1, 2 until it returns a non-string value. It should return the next possible completion starting with text. The installed completer function is invoked by the entry function callback passed to the passed to the rl underscore completion underscore matches method in the underlying library. The text string comes from the first parameter to the rl underscore attempted underscore completion underscore function callback of the underlying library. Readline.get underscore completer. Get the completer function or none if no completer function has been set. Readline.get underscore completion underscore type method. Get the type of completion being attempted. This returns the rl underscore completion underscore type variable in the underlying library as an integer. Readline.get underscore begidx begin index. Readline.get underscore end index. Get the beginning or ending index of the completion scope. These indexes are the start and end arguments passed to the rl underscore attempted underscore completion underscore function callback of the underlying library. The values may be different in the same input editing scenario based on the underlying C readline implementation. Example, libedit is known to behave differently than libreadline. Readline.set underscore completer underscore delimiters string. Readline.set get and completer delimiters. Set or get the word delimiters for completion. These determine the start of the word to be considered for completion. The completion scope. These functions access the rl underscore completer underscore word underscore break underscore characters variable in the underlying library. Readline.set underscore completion underscore display underscore matches underscore hook function. Set or remove the completion display function. If function is specified, it will be used as the new completion display function. If omitted or none, any completion display function already installed is removed. This sets or clears the rl underscore completion underscore display underscore matches underscore hook callback in the underlying library. The completion display function is called as function substitution comma matches longest match length once each time matches need to be displayed. Example. The following example demonstrate how to use the readline module's history reading and writing functions to automatically load and save a history file named .python underscore history from the user's home directory. The code below would manually be executed automatically during interactive sessions from the user's Python startup file. Import 8 exit, import OS, import readline. Let's do readline underscore module readline underscore module underscore example. Import 8 exit, import OS, import readline. History file is equal to os.path.join, os.path.expand user tilde, dot python underscore history try. Readline.read history file. Default history length is -1 infinite, which may grow unruly. Readline.set history length 1000 except file not found error pass. At exit dot register readline dot write history file, history file. Okay. So now the code is actually automatically run when Python is run in interactive mode. See readline configuration. The following example achieves the same goal but supports concurrent interactive sessions by only appending a new history. Import at exit OS this. Okay, start register. example underscore 2 import at exit import os import readline history file is equal to os.path.join os.path.expand user tilde comma dot python history file readline dot read history file h length readline dot get current history length except file not found error open history file wp dot close h underscore len is equal to 0 deep save previous history length history file new history length is equal to readline dot get current history length readline dot set history length is equal to 1000 readline dot append history file new history length minus previous history length history file at exit register save h length history file module readline has no attribute append history 18 okay. The following example extends the code.interactive console class to support history save restore. This one. Example 3. Example underscore 3. Here at exit import code import os import readline class history console code.interactive console div init self locals is equal to none file name is equal to console history file is equal to os.path.expand user tilde slash dot console minus history code.interactive console dot init self locals file name self dot init history history file div init history self history file readline dot parse and bind tab complete if has attribute readline read history file try readline dot read history file except file not found error pass at exit dot register self dot save history comma history file div save history self history file readline dot set history length 1000 readline dot write history file history. Thank you.